Good day, Knicks Nation. It is Friday, the 27th of November, 2020, the day after Thanksgiving. And by the way, happy Thanksgiving, or I guess it would be belated Thanksgiving to you all. Rest in peace, all our Indian brothers and sisters who were slaughtered by the Pilgrims. May they rest in peace and rise in power. Hope you're in good health and your family's in good health. So today, I want to talk about the New York Knicks and Cade Cunningham and Emmanuel Quickly and Frank Nitty and DSJ. I think that the New York Knicks are about to solve their point guard problem, or perceived point guard problem. I think they're about to solve it between one of these players or another player. And the reason I say that, I'm going to start talking about what we have, Frank Ntilikina. Before I start, I want to say this. My videos, my channel are for Knicks fans. Some of you who are not Knicks fans watch also, and we invite you to do that. What I don't want watching my channel, see, I do this for fun. If you are one that likes to do all over your own team and your own players and be negative in general, I don't want you on my channel. I don't care about your comments. Just telling you, okay? And you call yourself being realistic or whatever. To me, you're just a troll that's probably sitting in front of an NBA 2K screen and knows nothing about basketball. I'm talking to people that are serious fans. And for those of us that are serious Knicks fans, regardless of how teams or how our team ends up every year, we're always hopeful this time of year because we're always hoping this year is different. And we're always looking for signs that this year might be different. And that's what a fan does when you really love your hometown team. And most of us on Raw Hebrews channel do love our hometown team. And I'm talking to you guys. You trolls that want to hate on Frank trash, your breath is trash. You understand? No. Or DSJ, or because he had a bad year last year, or Kevin Knox, or your coach, or whatever. Please create your own channel or go to somebody else's and do all that. I'm just, I feel bad for some of y'all. Y'all ain't got no life, man. Anyway, let's start with this guards that we have. So Frank Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr. Frank was drafted in 2017, age 18. Dennis Smith was also drafted in that same draft, age 18, but he was drafted by Dallas, and we got him in a trade for a former player of ours. Now, both of these players have struggled over the last 3 seasons for various reasons. Dennis Smith Jr. came into the league as a highly athletic player, out of North Carolina State, coming from the state of North Carolina also. And he was not very efficient at North Carolina State, and that kind of carried over to the NBA. It wasn't a very efficient player. Again, extremely athletic, on an elite level athletic, and came into Dallas with great promise. Came into Dallas with great promise. And I believe he would have probably succeeded in Dallas had they not drafted one Luka Doncic. Because when Luka Doncic came, he became the center focal point, build around franchise, new face of the franchise player, as he should be. And so Dennis Smith was a little left out of the picture a little bit. And I don't think they wanted him in the plans, as I think originally they had planned for him to play off the ball with Luka carrying the ball, but I don't think he did very well at it at that stage of his career. Not he couldn't learn it, but he didn't do very well at that stage. And then, of course, the KP opportunity came to Dallas, and they quickly jumped on that. And it wasn't Dennis's fault. They'd have gotten rid of anybody they needed to get rid of to pick up KP in that trade. So, and that's why we ended up with the 2 extra Dallas first-round picks, and, of course, Dennis Smith Jr. So, Dennis Smith Jr., his first year with the Knicks, he was showing off the athleticism we all knew he had, but he does not have command of an offense in terms of basketball IQ. Aggressiveness is no problem with Dennis, but he doesn't have the basketball IQ to set up a team, to set up his teammates. He is used to dominating with his athleticism his whole life. So he needed some training in terms of development of basketball IQ, development of NBA level point guard play. He was coming along with that, but I think the problem was, and some of y'all can verify because some of the fact that we're Knicks fans, but he put a lot of emphasis on his conditioning to the point where I think he hurt himself and he hurt his back. I think he hurt his shoulder the first year. He hurt his back last year. And then on top of the back problem that he had, he was working out very hard in the summer. At least he was showing that in the videos. I believe he was. And then his stepmother died and that messed with his head. And then he was under Coach Fizdale, who turned out to be a pretty bad coach as a head coach. And so these factors combined to just really waste last year for him. And then, so that was a problem. This summer, he's been working with Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, the greatest in my opinion, but one of the definitely top 3 or 4 in NBA history as far as pure shooters. He's been working with him during this whole, long off season, and we've been off season since March, basically. So you're talking about at least 6-7 months of working on his game as far as working on his jump shot. And he's been kind of focused on that, and that's good. It's not going to create a higher IQ. It's not going to create that. It's not going to create the ability to set up his teammates any better, but it will certainly make him a bigger threat offensively. He doesn't have to shoot 37, 38% from 3, Dennis Smith Jr. If he can shoot a 34, 35% clip, in other words, if he could shoot anywhere, like one night he might be from 3, 1 of 3, and another night he might be 2 of 3, 1 of 3, 1 of 3, then 2 of 3. If he could do that on a regular basis, he's going to be dynamite offensively because, you'd have to at least respect his jump shot a little bit, because it might go in, especially if he's hit 2 out of 3, right? So now that makes him extremely dangerous because he's very explosive offensively in terms of athleticism. Now, we have to work on his defense a little bit, but that's where Thibodeau comes in. Thibodeau likes Dennis Smith Jr., and I believe he must have designs in his head of what he could do with him. And so we're expecting him to make improvements on the defensive end. Frank Ntilikina was drafted at age 18 from the French League. He had been a pro since he was 15. He was MVP of the under 18 tournament in France. And then he went to the adult league and he led his team, or was one of the leaders of his team that put them in the playoffs as a point guard in the French league. He came to the Knicks as a Phil Jackson pick for the Triangle in 2017, shortly before Phil Jackson was relieved of his duties. Then we ended up getting another coach in David Fizdale, who in his first press conference said, Emmanuel Mudiay, we're going to get you right, which told you everything you needed to know about his focus on Frank Ntilikina in his second year out of France at age 19. Okay? So Frank has, to me, not been given the opportunity, not been given the minutes, especially the minutes, to develop properly. Again, I compare his stats to Marcus Smart on NBAReference.com because they're very similar players. And Marcus Smart was getting 30, 32 minutes a game from almost his rookie year as a Celtic. His shooting numbers are almost identical to Frank's, except Frank is a better free throw shooter. Frank is just as good a defender, in my view, than Marcus Smart. And also, their three-point numbers are very closely aligned. But the difference is Marcus Smart just took more shots. And we know Frank needs to be more aggressive. It wasn't his style coming from France. He's more of a playmaker, set the table type of guy than a guy that wants to shoot. At the end of this past season, before the COVID shut short the seasons, Frank was becoming more aggressive, scoring 20 points against the Washington Wizards in one of the last games of the season, and showing more aggressiveness, showing more comfort level, having been able to be raised, so to speak, in the New York market really does help some players, in the sense that some players crumple up in the New York market. But now when you're young and you get used to it and you know what it's about, now you can relax with it. And I think I saw that last year with Frank. He wasn't worried about the media anymore. He wasn't worried about what the fans were thinking, good or bad. He was out there relaxed and playing his game. I happened to be at the Wizards game and noticed these things myself. He really was playing with a lot more confidence, a lot more relaxed than he would normally play. And so that was coming on as the season was, going on. I think he would have improved greatly at the end of the year. So I'm expecting him being a defensive player to really be a heavy minutes guy under Thibodeau. I expect him to start, but even if he doesn't start, I'm expecting 30 plus minutes a game from Frank Ntilikina, which to me is one of the key things, along with his confidence, was the amount of minutes he needs to get. So if he gets to 30 plus minutes a game, he doesn't hurt himself. he should be a very effective double-figure scorer, lockdown defender for the Knicks this year. Now, that being said, we also drafted Immanuel Quickley. Now, Immanuel Quickley, as I mentioned to you in a previous video, one of the best shooters in the draft. No question. One of the best shooters in this year's draft, along with Tyrell Terry, Malachi Flynn, and Neesmith. One of the best shooters in this draft. He's in the class with all those guys. Okay. And Desmond Bane as well. One of the best shooters in this draft. Player of the year in the SEC. But he has potential. He's 21. And there's a difference when a guy is 18, when a guy is 21 coming into the NBA, because the 21-year-old is a little bit more mature, a little bit stronger, a little bit bodies, a little bit built up, a little more naturally. And they usually don't take as long. When you're drafting a player that's 18 or 19, you have to give them the 4 years of their contract before you actually make decisions about whether they're trash or not. You can't decide that unless you're really a pro scout level scout or a pro level coach. You can't really decide that as an amateur before they get into their 4th year. We talked about that with Kevin Knox especially, but it's true of all the players that are drafted when they're 18 or 19. Well, anyway, Quickley was drafted at age 21. Okay. Or Obi Toppin's 22, going to be 23 in March. See, Obi Toppin's probably older than all of the young guys we got. But Quickley, no pun intended, I think he's going to develop quickly. I think he's going to be a shooter early on, a guy that can shoot the rock. Now, even though he's 21, like most players, the speed of the NBA game is what it is. So he's going to have to get used to that. But I think if he's going to be a very effective shooter for the Knicks. The thing that I think is going to surprise some people, and that's what I'm waiting to find out from Immanuel Quickley, IQ for short, is I think he also can be an effective point guard. Now, thinking of him as an off guard is easy to do because of his shooting ability. And he's about 6'4", 6'3" in that range. So generally you would look at him as a point guard, but he played more like a 2 with Tyrese Maxey in the Kentucky lineup when Calipari decided to start him. But I think he could also be a playmaker as well. We're going to find out this year under Thibodeau if he has those abilities or if there's a glimpse of it that could develop into the future. So between Frank Ntilikina, Dennis Smith Jr., Immanuel Quickley, I think our future is pretty solid at the point guard position. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Cade Cunningham. Now, I watched the highlights of the game against UT Arlington, and several things stood out to me. And I saw highlights of him at Mount Verdi as well. But this was different because now he's playing Division I basketball. And before I go into it, I just want to say we should anybody still talking about tanking either doesn't know anything about Knicks history or really is not a competitive person in terms of basketball. You play to win. You don't play to lose. Now, think on that theme. The Knicks had a terrible season 2014-2015. And in 2015, we were hoping to get the number 1 pick, which was Karl Anthony Towns, and we ended up getting Kristaps Porzingis, the 4th pick, which is a good pick, but it was 4th, right? The next year, we did not have a 1st round pick because Glenn Greenwald traded it away. He traded it away. Thank you very much, Glenn Greenwald. I'm glad he's gone. Okay, Grunwald, whatever his name is. I'm glad he's gone. He traded that pick away. Okay. Then we had 2017. We were hoping to get the number 1 pick in that draft. We ended up getting the 8th pick. The next year, we were hoping to get the number 1 pick in that draft. We ended up getting the 9th pick. The next year, we were hoping to get the number 1 pick in that draft, and we ended up getting the 3rd pick. And this year, we were all hoping to get the number 1 pick. Well, I wasn't. I liked that we got the 8th pick, but we got the 8th pick. Okay. And so tanking does not work. It might work for some other team, but for the Knicks, it doesn't work. So play to win. Okay. Even if you're playing your young guys, which I'm hoping and glad I think they're going to be doing this year, and you lose a lot of games, play them and play to win every game. And wherever, if you overperform and you're the 8th seed or you down in the 15th spot or whatever, that's where you are. But then you worry about the draft. But if we are fortunate enough to draft Cade Cunningham, now there are some other, Jalen Suggs is a good guard as well. There's some good freshmen this year in the guard position. And there's also some good juniors and seniors that are going to be drafted also or in the draft conversation come NBA draft time in 2021 that are also good point guards. So there's a lot of good prospects at point guard coming out in 2021. So, but That being said, the likelihood of us getting Cade Cunningham, I want y'all to know, is very small, just based on our history. Okay. Now, some people might think, well, it's about time we lucked out and get the top pick. That's true. But just based on our history, you're talking about 4th, you're talking about 7th, you're talking about 8th, you're talking, you're 4th, 8th, 9th, 3rd, and 8th. That's where we've been. But we need to discuss at least Cade Cunningham, just because if there's a possibility, this is a kid, let me tell you right now, if we had to give away the other Dallas picks and some players to get this kid, I'm with it. I'm with it. First off, Cade Cunningham is a 5-star recruit. Okay, he was a 5-star recruit, which means you had all the major programs coming at him. Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, Kansas. They all wanted him. He chose Oklahoma State. Now, I don't know why he chose Oklahoma State. I never heard a quote about that. But the fact is, Oklahoma State is not a powerhouse. It's not a top 25 ranked team this year. Okay? So he didn't go, like a lot of kids, almost like the way the NBA does it, where you get a top tier player and they're going to go to a certain team like Kevin Durant, and they want another top tier player to go with them like Kyrie Irving, right? So they don't want to be biased. Even LeBron, he goes to Miami and he goes there with D Wade and he gets Chris Bosh. Or he goes to Cleveland and he teams up with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. Or he goes to LA and he teams up with Anthony Davis, right? And then guys like Dwight Howard. That's how, so college kids kind of do that sometimes. Like they go to a school and they know it's going to be stacked with other 5-star recruits. So they go there because they want to win, they want to look good, they want the exposure. Cade Cunningham did not do that. The Oklahoma State team, as I mentioned, is not a top 25 team. They're not. And he went there, and I was watching the highlights of the game against UT Arlington. Okay? Not going to blow anybody's socks off. But the first thing I noticed, he makes his teammates better. He makes everybody on the floor look better. Okay? And a team that's not very good. Like some people could say, like, for example, you recall this past season, people were making excuses for some of the NBA draft prospects, saying, they're that their team stunk. Their team stunk, and so they had to force a lot of shots, like Cole Anthony. I'm not saying Cole Anthony's going to be a bad player, but that's what people were saying. His team stunk. He had to take a lot of bad shots, had to force shots, and that's why, his efficiency was really bad, and blah, blah, blah. Now, I would counter that with Tyrese Halliburton, whose team wasn't great either, but his overall stats were good, and he made all his teammates better. Well, Cade Cunningham makes his teammates better. He's that type of player. That's the first thing that stuck out at me. Second thing is, he's a point guard, and he plays the game like a point guard. Like a guy you would think is maybe 6'2" or 6'3", but the cat is 6'8", 220. 6'8", 220. Okay? Now, you guys might think I'm crazy. I'm an old school cat, but his game reminds me of a white kid named John Stockton. In terms of the fundamentals, John Stockton wasn't the most athletically gifted guy, but fundamentally, discipline-wise, every single time throwing the right pass, every single time having his feet set perfectly, every single time being in the right position on defense, every single time without making a mistake like that, like mentally on it, John Stockton. But the difference is, Cade Cunningham is way more athletically gifted than John Stockton was. That's the scary thing. See, John Stockton, you can see the hours he put into all of that. The hours and hours and hours of work he would have had to put in to have the game that tight for him. And I'm not saying Cade Cunningham, obviously he would have had to put in time also. But the thing about a guy like Cade Cunningham is he makes it look easy. Now, I know they were playing UT Arlington, but this is Oklahoma State. His team is not the greatest team, and he made it look easy. The game he almost had a triple-double. He like 20 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, something like that. Now, he had 5 turnovers. Now, you're going to see that with that type of team he's playing on. It's not because he's inefficient or throws bad passes. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I'm glad he chose Oklahoma State in terms of my selfish way of wanting to see him, because he's going to have to carry his team as a freshman. He's going to have to, how old is this? He's going to have to carry his team as a freshman. He's not going to have the luxury of having, 4 other 5-star recruits on the team with him. He's 19 years old. He just turned 19. And he's going to have to carry the team. Okay. And this is good. So so I want to continue to see him during the course of the season, where he is in a situation where he's the guy on his team. He doesn't have any other guys, and he's going to make everybody raise their level of play. Because you know what? If he came to the Knicks, that's what he'd do. This kid is the deal. I'm very impressed with him. I like his defensively, feet always in the right position. Always in the right spot. Okay? And he's only 19. Jump shot. Picture perfect. Picture perfect. Always makes the right pass. I'm excited about Cade Cunningham. I think he's worth this kid if he continues. That's why I want to see the rest of the season before I make final judgment, right? I want to see him play. I didn't even look at their, at Oklahoma State's, schedule. I want to look at their schedule, see who they play, because I want to see them play against some really good teams and see how this kid responds, because it's going to be very important for us to see that, as 19. If he responds the way I think he's going to respond, under control, always under control, and makes his teammates better, and still scored 20 points. It wasn't forcing anything. If he continues to do that, man, he's a game changer. He's a game changer. This year's draft has a game changer in it. I like Jalen Suggs. I looked at some highlights of him from high school. So I don't know what he's going to be like in the pros, in the college, Jalen Suggs, but I like his game. No, he's at Gonzaga. So I want to see what he's like also. And there's we got some talented point guards coming out, but to me right now, Cade Cunningham is the top of the pile. And so if we could get him, even like if we kept Frank, let's say, right, we kept Frank and we got Emmanuel quickly, and you add Cade Cunningham to that mix, whoa, I'm really excited, because this kid is a game changer. He can really do it, but don't tank for him. Okay. If we happen to be in a position to get him, try to get him. Okay. But do not tank for him. Win every game. Okay. Tanking doesn't work. And if we don't get him, then we don't get him. All right. This is how it is. But, this year, who was number one this year? Who drafted number one? Minnesota, right? And then last year was New Orleans Pelicans. And, you never know. You just never know. Okay. It could happen this time, but maybe not. But don't tank for it. Don't wish that we tank for it. Wish that we win every single game. Hope the Knicks go 72-0. Do stuff like that. They're talking that tanking crap. And I even heard one blogger talk about trading Randall and giving Charlotte a number 1 pick to take back Nicholas Batum. The mentality as Knicks fan, I'm just wondering, what are y'all thinking? We're not giving away number 1 picks for Nicholas Batum. Anyway, Cade Cunningham is the deal. We're going to see between Frank and Emmanuel quickly and DSJ what happens this year. Not all of them, I'm going to tell you right now, not all of them are going to be around next season. And I'm pulling for Frank because I believe he's a championship piece. But if he's not, he's not. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, Frank McCullough's my favorite player on the Knicks. But if he was to get hurt and miss 15 games and be out of the rotation, I say, with y'all, get rid of him. I'm not worried about that. I just think I like Frank because I see the talent that he has. I see what he can become, and I see a championship piece or a piece of a, championship team. Not the main guy, but definitely a championship piece. So if he plays this year without getting hurt, I think we're going to see, some good things from him. So, but this is the year for him and Dennis especially to see what they can do. If they fail, they just fail. But I'm going to tell y'all, this Cade Cunningham kid is the real deal. He really is. And so, again, I don't want to tank for him, but I don't mind trading the Dallas picks to move up to get him. I don't mind trading them at all. If it means we can get number 1 pick for him, yeah, I would do that. I would definitely do that because he's worth it. This kid's a game changer. He's not LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball, they wanted to make into a game changer. And I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player, but Cade Cunningham is better. better than LaMelo Ball. He is. And so I'm very excited about him. I want to see how he continues during the course of this season as a Division One player on a not a good team, and continue to make his teammates better the way he's doing and play the way he's playing. I wish him the best. Hope he doesn't get hurt. But that's my take on Cade and on the Knicks guard situation going into this year and the draft next year. Don't tank. If we can get him, get him. If not, we just don't. But he is a game changer. He's the deal, and we're gonna find out more as this season goes on. Of course, tell me what you think. Except you Knicks so-called fans that are haters, y'all can just keep stepping. Shalom.